What's up, YouTube? Got some more game for y'all, man. Look, another installment of my What Do You Do series. All right, hypothetical situations, things that will at some point happen to you in the dump truck business, but also the wisdom, knowledge, and experience of telling you what you should do to remedy that situation or to correct your situation or to get you out of some kind of bind that you might be in. Right. So look, today I want to talk about what do you do when you break a rear axle. Right. What do you do when you break a rear axle? We know that axle is a shorter axle on the driver's side, and it's a longer axle on the passenger side of those rear ends, right? All right, and so there are instances the truck can get into some kind of bind, and those axles can break, right? Depending on the situation of what happened. And then sometimes just wear and tear, man. I've had guys break axles just going down the street, so these kinds of things can happen, but it's more importantly, what do you do to solve the issue, right? So in my years of 21 years, we've probably broken, between me and drivers, 6, 7, 8 axles, right? Situation happens. And the good thing about a Mack, typically before you tear a rear end up, you'll break an axle, right? So that was always the thing I love about a Mack as well. All right. And so what do you do? All right. And so the object is always in dump truck. And let me say this is a nugget, and I want you to get this. The object is always to get the truck up ASAP, right? All right. In the dump truck business, this is another nugget I'm going to give you. It's not the breakdowns that kill you. It's the downtime. I'm going to say that again. It's not the breakdowns that kill you in the dump truck business. It's the downtime. All right. If you can get your truck back up ASAP, you can go back and make back what you've lost from having to buy the part, and all that kind of stuff. Right. All right. So just remember that. That's a nugget right there. All right. So let's look at this thing. Dealing with the axle. All right. So typically axles break when the rear end is under some kind of pressure. So you put it into some kind of bind. Right, some kind of abnormal situation happen. It could be overloading. You're in boggy ground. Typically that's when it happens. As I said in my introduction, is that sometimes every now and again, just riding down the street or just regular rolling on the road, boom, something will happen. All right, but typically it's in some kind of bind. So what happens when that happens? Typically the truck won't move, right? You all of a sudden, you're going to typically hear a pow, and that's what it is, right? And then all of a sudden the truck won't pull. Right, we know that the rear on a truck is the axle that always stays moving, right? And then your front rear, we call it the front chunk, whatever, is typically the rear end that you have to lock in, right? It just kind of free rolls. It doesn't roll on its own. All right, so all of a sudden that truck won't move, right? And so typically the rear axle, like I said, is going to be the one that pulls. All right, but if the axle breaks, that rear axle won't pull. All right, I'm going to say that again. The rear axle is the one that always pulls, but if you break an axle, it won't pull. All right, so what do you do in that situation? Well, you can try one thing. You can try to lock in your axles and see if that'll get it to move. Sometimes it will, right? All right, and if it does, then you can kind of ease in off the road if you're in traffic, or you can ease to a shop, or you can maybe ease at home, just taking your time, all right? But that's something that you will have to determine. All right, and be careful about, because the part that's broke on that axle, it could drop down into the bottom of that rear end. Okay, all right, so just remember that. All right, if it's the front rear, all right, most of the time you can lock the axle in and be able to move it, right? Sometimes I found that the rear end axle, if it breaks, you can lock in and it still won't move, right? You got to fix it right there. All right, but if it's that front chunk, that front rear, then if it breaks, then typically you can lock in all your axles, your differential thing, and then you'll be able to just kind of ease it off the road, or ease it to where you can work on it, or ease it home if it's not too far, right? All right, so in the event that you can't move it, right, it's either one, because like I say, there's nothing dead set. Things happen, and you broke an axle and this joker won't move at all, or you hear stuff rattling around in there, then that's the indication. Don't move it if you hear stuff rattling around in there, because you don't want to do more damage, right? All right, so if you can't move it, you're going to have to repair it on site, right? All right, pulled, and all that's about is just pulling the outer hubs off. I think it's 8 bolts on that. Pulling that out, those bolts off, and when you pull those bolts off, that hub is actually attached to the axle. That's what you're going to be actually taking out, right? And one of the key things that when you take that axle off, you got to determine if it's that side, right? See if it's that side, and if that's the side that is broke off of, all right, you typically have to take both of them off the driver's side too. And what's a rule of thumb is most people would take a broomstick handle or some kind of stick and push it through that hole to knock that broke piece out the other side. And what you got to determine is match that broke piece up where it broke off of the axle and see, are there any more missing pieces? All right. If there are many missing pieces, what you may have to do is to drain the oil out of that particular rear end and get that rest of that broke piece out of there, because it can do damage to your gears if you don't. All right, so remember that. All right, and so all you're going back up with then is you go get another axle from the parts store. You're gonna need some gasket maker, and all you're doing is coming back in, slapping that axle in, put your gasket maker around there, slap that hub on, put your bolts on, boom, you are good to go. All right. All right, so if you can't get it worked on at the spot, obviously you can do the same thing as take the axles out, and then you could get it pulled in. If you got a partner that's got a chain and truck, he can pull you in, but take that broke axle out first before you do that. Or, you know, take the shaft out, whatever, so the truck can free roll. Or if you call a tow truck, he's going to do that, right? He's going to take the axle out or whatever, or take the shaft out so there's no damage that takes place, all right? All right, so that's how this pretty much works if you got a broken axle. All right. Obviously, when you call tow trucks, that's more money. You know, if you call a mechanic, he has to come to you. Sometimes I would rather that than a tow truck, because off top, tow truck is $700-800 where we are, depending on where you're at. So if I can get a guy to come and work on it on site, sometimes I've had to ask people, hey, can I leave my truck here? They be like, okay, cool. You know, but be diligent about getting there the next day and getting your truck off their place. All right. So that's what it amounts to with a broken axle. Nothing real heavy. It sounds better than what it is. Even when you hear it, it sounds like, oh my God, I got a major breakdown. And then just thinking broke axle, it sounds like just a big old deal, but it's such a real simple fix. Okay. All right. Remember, it's not the breakdowns that kill you. It's the downtime. So you're trying to get that truck up back soon as possible. Okay. All right. Look, man, I'm out of here. No grind, no shine. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. Share this video. Somebody need this game, man. I'm gone.